All right, we are back, and we continue to be joined by our good friend Terry McCormick from TitansInsider.com. You can also hear him on WNSR Sports Radio. I know a thing or two about that station. I do a little show with Greg Pogue. You can find him on in the afternoons co-hosting with George Plaster, the great George Plaster, I should say. And you got a lot of other cool stuff going on. You're going to be busy this fall. Tell everybody what you got going on.
Well, Titan Insider has a brand new partnership with Main Street Media. Now, you folks that live in Sumner County or Wilson County or Rutherford County, Roberson County, you should be familiar with that. They publish the weekly newspapers that serve all those areas, and my copy will be in those newspapers, and my website will be partnered with Main Street Media, which is owned by Dave Gould, who's the publisher of those. Looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great working relationship between myself and Main Street Media, and anybody that would like to reach out and maybe advertise on the website and do those sorts of things that help pay the bills, it certainly would be appreciated.
Hey, absolutely. Hey, you know, we let everybody on this show get all their plugs in because we want everybody to just enjoy themselves and make a living and have fun covering sports, which is why we got into this in the first place. All right, let's talk a little Titans defense, Terry. I think Malcolm Butler has had a really good camp. He's healthy. Of course, injured the wrist. I think it was his wrist last year in the Carolina game. And, you know, the year before that, his first year here, kind of struggled a little bit. But, man, he seems really comfortable, and he looks like the kind of cornerback that the Titans paid big money to a few years ago.
Yeah, he's had a really solid camp. I think he's gotten his hands on a lot of footballs, not only in team drills, but in 7-on-7 and 1-on-1 and things like that, which, as you know, those 7-on-7 and 1-on-1s are designed for the offense to win. But Malcolm Butler is having a really strong camp. He's making the receivers, whether it be A.J. Brown or Corey Davis or Adam Humphries, whoever is matched up on him, earn their keep in this training camp.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What about Adoree Jackson? This is a guy who was also drafted in the first round by the Titans back in 2017, along with Corey Davis. They actually did pick up his fifth-year option. His future seems bright. And listen, Logan Ryan's not here anymore. Rashaan Simmons is not here anymore. This is the time that they need Adoree Jackson to step up. And I really felt towards the end of last year he's playing some of his best ball. And I expect that to continue in 2020. What say you?
Yeah, it seemed like he started to figure things out about the last 6 weeks of the season last year, that his play really improved. I think it was a situation where, for whatever reason, he hadn't lived up to expectations until that point. I think he may have turned the corner, and the Titans have to hope that Adoree Jackson can continue that rise. Now, the big thing with him is, where's he going to play? Is he going to be outside? Is he going to be a nickel? Is it going to be a matchup situation where he's going to do a little bit of both? Mm-hmm. That's what I happen to think it's going to be, because I think they're going to find some playing time. They're going to find some snaps for rookie Christian Fulton, who's currently injured and missed the last couple of days of practice. And they're going to find some snaps for Jonathan Joseph, the old veteran that came over from the Texans, who's a pretty nice insurance policy in that secondary. But Adoree Jackson, to me, big year for him, because he needs to step up and show that he's developed and is worthy of having that option picked up.
Defensive line, obviously, Jarrell Casey. They trade him to the Denver Broncos for a late-round draft pick. That raised a lot of eyebrows, obviously. And, you know, from what I've heard, they just felt like that his production was starting to dip just a little bit. And, you know, the old Patriot way, right? Better to get rid of a guy a little too early as opposed to a little too late. Well, now the stage is set for Jeffrey Simmons. He looks 100% healthy with that knee. That is one big, strong, tough dude, and he's got some good veterans around him, guys like Daquan Jones. So, obviously, listen, Jarrell Casey's one of the best in the league. You're going to miss him, but, you know, the cupboard is not exactly bare with him no longer with the team, correct?
Yeah. Jeffrey Simmons is a guy that they need to have a big year. Mm-hmm. He got some penetration and push today on one pass rush up the middle that was very, very impressive. Just kind of pushed the interior of the offensive line back toward Ryan Tannehill as he was setting up to throw. Jeffrey Simmons is a guy that's going to have to deliver play in and play out. You mentioned Daquan Jones. I think he's a guy that's kind of underrated, kind of operated in the shadows ever since he's been here, really. But he's the most tenured guy on the Titans defense right now.
Yep.
And he's had a good, solid season last year. I expect more of the same kind of unheralded play. He won't put up big numbers, but he's going to clog the middle. He's going to make his share of tackles. May not see him draped around the quarterback 8 or 10 times a year, but he's a guy that's going to contribute. Where I have concern with the Titans is in that third spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it has been Jurrell Casey, Jeffrey Simmons, and Daquan Jones last year, and Austin Johnson had that spot as well. Right now, Matt Dickerson practicing with the first group. Isaiah Mack is in that mix, and Jack Crawford, who just got back off the COVID-19 list and has practiced about 4 days with the team, is another guy. He's the guy I expect to probably win that starting job. But that defensive line rotation, there's some question marks there beyond Jeffrey Simmons and Daquan Jones that they've got to answer pretty quickly.
Yeah, no question about it. What about the outside pass rush, Terry? I mean, I guess we'll see what Vic Beasley can bring when and if he finally gets on the field. We talked about him in the previous segment. Harold Landry III, I thought up until about the middle of the season was having a really good season, and then his production tailored off. Assuming that they don't sign Jadeveon Clowney, I'm going to ask you specifically about that in just a minute. Where are you at with this outside pass rush for the Titans?
Well, like we talked about with Vic Beasley before, right now he's kind of a unicorn. I don't think anybody's really seen him much. But, with Harold Landry, he's a guy that I think that wore down over the course of last year. He kind of denied it, but his position coach, Shane Bowen, took responsibility, saying he played too many snaps last year and wore down. I think that's the reason probably why he didn't have any sacks over the last month of the season after having a bunch of them. I think it was 9 through the first 12 games last year. Mm-hmm. Now, the guy to me that's kind of a wild card in this is Camille Correa. Yep. He played himself into another contract with the Titans with the way he performed down the stretch, final month of the season. He came on right about the time that Landry was tailing off, and he also was solid in the postseason. I think Camille Correa is a guy, while he's not a superstar, he's a guy that can get you maybe 7 or 8 sacks at that position on the outside there, teaming up with Landry and or Beasley. So he's a guy I think that's going to factor in this year. The other guy that I think that's kind of a wild card in this, there's actually 2 more guys. One is Deandre Walker, the 5th-round pick that missed all of last season with an injury. He's back. Said he feels like a rookie. They're giving him lots of reps right now with Vic Beasley out and Harold Landry limited the last couple of days. Deandre Walker is getting a lot of first-team reps. They're trying to get him up to speed quickly. And then the other guy is Derek Roberson, who we saw last year that came on off the practice squad toward the end of last season with 3 sacks in the final, I think, 4 games of the year. So that's a guy that has some potential. They've got to get him a little bit bulkier and a little bit better ability-wise to deal with first and second down, and not just be a third down specialist.
Terry, 2 of my favorite guys on the Tennessee Titans are the 2 starting middle linebackers, Jayon Brown and Rashaan Evans. I just love these guys. I mean, Jayon Brown, an undersized linebacker we thought coming in, but he's proven he's an every down back and, not the biggest guy, but certainly tough and always around the ball and great coverage skills. And I think Rashaan Evans is, this guy's only entering his 3rd NFL season, but you've been around him. This guy feels like an 8-year veteran. I think he's one of the leaders of this football team. Talk about the 2 middle backers, Brown and Evans.
Yeah, you're right about Rashaan Evans. He's a guy that gets it. Mm-hmm. He, halfway through his rookie year, you could tell that the light was coming on for him, and he just continues to get better and better. If he played for the New York Giants or the Dallas Cowboys, he'd be a household name.
Listen, I'm a Giants fan. I'm a Giants fan, Terry. I would love to have Rashaan Evans. I'd love to have anybody. But go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. And Jayon Brown, you got to love him because he's really a self-made player. He was pigeonholed when he came out as a nickel linebacker, going to play 3rd down only in the sub packages. But he wouldn't take that for an answer. And he's worked and built himself up to the point where now he's a solid starter. And he's entering the final year of his contract. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he's a guy they target to keep with an extension this offseason.
Yeah, all that guy does is make plays. All right, what about special teams? It looks like we got a little bit of a kicker battle. Greg Joseph kind of did okay last year. I didn't get too many opportunities to kick the ball because the Titans were so good in the red zone, scoring touchdowns once Tannehill became the starter. How do you handicap the kicking race right now with the Titans?
Well, Craig Aukerman, the special teams coordinator, said yesterday that it was neck and neck. Now, I'm not sure I bought that, but today Tucker McCann, the undrafted rookie from Missouri, looked good, made all 5 of his field goals, and Greg Joseph had a miss or two in his round. So maybe it has tightened up a little bit. I still think Greg Joseph is going to get the first shot at it. Here's something that I would do if I were the Titans, and this may be something that they have planned. If they're going to go with Greg Joseph because he's the guy that has experience, I think I'd stash Tucker McCann on the practice squad because, 1, there's 16 spots on the practice squad, and 2, with the COVID-19 and all that stuff,
sure.
If somebody wants to go down, I think I'd rather have a guy there that already knows what to do and how things are doing and has already been working with my snapper and my holder rather than going through the circus that, again, like they did last year where it was a musical chairs with kickers and the results were mainly disastrous.
Yeah, I know. It almost cost them making the playoffs last year. All right, Terry, you mentioned defensive line. What are some of your other concerns about the Titans as we continue on through training camp and into the regular season?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. You know, I talked about the defensive line. I think one of the things that I want to see this team do, they've got to develop a 4th receiver. And I think that's probably going to be Khalif Raymond. They're pretty solid at the top 3 spots with A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, and Adam Humphries. But you know as well as I do, hard to get through a season. Last year, Corey Davis played with a turf toe injury. He's been kind of dinged throughout his career. Adam Humphries had that ankle injury last year that kept him out about 6 weeks, including a couple of the playoff games. So a guy like Khalif Raymond could be valuable. He is, 1 snap away from playing some pretty valuable minutes. And, as much as people kind of thought Tajay Sharp was an average player, Tajay Sharp had his moments where he came up with some big plays for this team, filling in as a 3rd receiver. So I think that's an area where I think they probably need to get a little deeper. The other thing is, obviously, Derrick Henry is the bell cow. Darrington Evans has been a little dinged up lately. He had looked pretty good. He showed some burst and some speed. But beyond that, they're a little bit thin at running back. They're 1 play away from having, a crisis there, in my opinion, because they've got 2 decent guys. The 3rd guy right now would be Kari Blasingame, who's a fullback by trade.
Right.
So, it's going to be interesting to see if they go with him or if they look to the waiver wire off the street to see if they can add.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, the $1 million question, Terry. Best guess, I won't hold you to this. Are the Titans going to sign Jadeveon Clowney? Because these fans on Twitter are driving me nuts. Is this thing going to get done or not?
I thought a while back that it looked like it might happen. I thought that it sounded like they were interested, and it sounded like that there was, dialogue that had happened. But the further this thing drags out, I think the less likely it is to happen. I don't know if Clowney's going to be on anybody's roster by opening day. He may just be waiting for somebody to suffer an injury and then say, hey, I'm here for $15 million. I can come in and save your season. So who knows? I really think it's anybody's guess, but I would put it at less than 50% now.
See, I agree with you. Do me a favor. Will you please tell my radio partner, Greg Pogue, what you just told me? Because he is hell-bent for leather that Jadeveon Clowney will sign with the Tennessee Titans, and so are a lot of Titans fans on Twitter.
I'll do that.
Terry, I'm glad we did this, my man. Get all your plugs in. How can people keep up with you?
TitanInsider.com. or on Twitter at TerryMC13. That's how you can get a hold of me, and give me a follow on Twitter and check out the website.
Tennessee Titans insider, the great Terry McCormick. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a great night, sir, and I'll probably see you later on this week at practice, I would guess.
Sounds good, John. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a great night. Terry McCormick, yeah, definitely a great follow if you're a Titans fan. Great to have T-Mac on with us. All right, we're due for a break. We'll come back. More fun here on SportsLine on News Channel 5 Plus right after this. Stay with us.